I was honestly happy if I made $20,000 a year. I was gonna be happy if I made 50 or 70,000, like I'm set, I made it. But somehow in my first year, I was able to build over. Hello, and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Preston. I run my own recruitment agency in the technology industry for 8 years, have done a little over 7 figures worth of placements and happy to provide value to you all. But before we get started, please consider supporting a fellow recruiter. Give us a like, subscribe, click that bell, really means a lot. Let's get started. So as you can see from the title of this video, I'm here to share with you how you can make 6 to 7 plus figures as a recruiter. These are lessons that I have personally used over my entire career to help me generate over multiple 7 figures worth of placements, most of it on my own desk as a solo recruiter, now running a small agency. So let's go ahead and get started. So before we continue, I do want to make it very, very clear. This is not me bragging at all. It's just to show you my journey, what worked for me and what I was able to do, really majority on my own desk through hard work and consistency, and hope that it provides you some sort of value. Also, apologize for any spelling and grammatical errors on the slides, as I just whip these up real quick, hoping to get these out to you as soon as I can. My recruiting career. If you've been watching me for quite some time, you probably already know this, but if you're new here, let's just kind of speed through this. I started my recruiting career at a nationwide staffing agency here in the US. I was only there for a year. Biggest regret to date was I wish I stayed a little bit longer so I can really understand how to manage people effectively, how to grow and scale teams and tools. But I was there enough to see a level of success that I was able to leverage to my career afterwards. So my first year that I was there, somehow, I don't know, I was able to build over $500,000 on my own desk with really no client handouts. I built literally everything. Unfortunately, as agencies go, I was only paid about $30,000. Roughly around that point, I'm like, you know what? I learned a lot after a year. I went from being one on the bottom to one of the top producers. If I just stayed, it'd just be more money. Money wasn't a priority at that time for me. It was all about learning and challenges. I kind of wanted to see it was grass greener on the other side in the internal corporate world. I left my agency job. I joined an early stage startup to really get a taste of the internal corporate recruiting life. And lo and behold, no surprise there, my salary again was $30,000. It wasn't even a step, it wasn't even a small jump at that. And unfortunately, my tenure at this startup was only about like 5, 6, 7 months because they ran out of money. And I wish I did better when it came to interviewing and really ask those hard questions, because I could have probably have spotted these red flags and problems from the get-go. But anyway, when that finished, I'm like, what am I gonna do? I'm like, you know what? I had such a good experience at the staffing agency. I still had the skills. I loved the ride. I love sales. I'm like, you know what? Maybe I can bet against myself and just go for it. So that's exactly what I did. And if you haven't seen my video, make sure you watch the video of how I started my agency and what that was like. But I worked my butt off. I dedicated 7 days a week. Probably not the best if you're in a relationship or you have other priorities in your life, but that's what I did. And I think just to kind of defend it a little bit, I think that's the mentality you need to have if you want to start an actual business or a successful freelance career. You have no clients. You have to build everything from the ground up, and that takes a lot of work and just action and execution. And so that's what I did. I worked about 8, 9, 10 hours average a day, 7 days a week for the first year. Again, don't know how I did that, but was able to build about $500,000 in my first year on my own desk. And this time I was able to keep it all minus New York City taxes tier. But either way, unfortunately, this experience with the early stage startup was pretty short. It lasted about 6, 7 months. The startup ran out of money. Wish I was able to kind of dig into that more while interviewing. Maybe I would have just joined another company instead. Anyway, I had such a really good experience at my staffing agency. I really learned the systems and tools really well, and I knew I had the work ethic to make some sort of money. And so that's exactly what I did. I made a decision to have a leap of faith, to bet against myself, and to start my own solo independent recruiting career. And I worked really as hard as I could, worked about 7 days a week, about 8, 9, 10 hours a day. I think a part of it is necessary. If you're creating a new business, something from nothing, you have to really inject a lot of work ethic and energy into that. And again, if you have other priorities, you have a relationship, it's gonna be very, very difficult to juggle everything. But that's just what I did. I'm not saying one's right way or another, but I just went all in on this, and I was completely obsessed to make it happen. I was honestly happy if I made $20,000 a year. I was gonna be happy if I made 50 or 70,000, like I'm set, I made it. But somehow in my first year, I was able to build over $500,000 a year, was able to collect it all on my own desk, which is absolutely incredible because I've never been able to experience or taste money of that sort of level in my entire life. I do want to clarify that for the majority of the beginning of my career, especially the first 4 or 5 years, I didn't use any VA, didn't even know what VAs were. I didn't have any employees or part-time. It was only after about 4 or 5 plus years, I started experimenting with maybe bringing a partner on full-time, part-time, contract, and free freelance. Only recently I made my first full-time hire in the past year and experimented here and there. I'm always kind of trying to find a way to like run a great business, how to optimize it to make things better. But for the most part, everything was on me, my desk, no handouts, no VAs. I just learned the fundamentals from a job, put it into action to see what happened. And that's exactly what happened. And from then onward, off to the moon, like changed my life. I'm still in this because I love it. And I hope that this resonates with you. I'm still a full desk recruiter right now, even though I manage and run a small team. Like I still do everything, biz dev, candidates, negotiations, process calls. I love it. And it's gonna be tough to give any of that up, but I love it so much and I'm just gonna keep doing what I know how to do best. So moving forward, a couple tips to kind of share with you some of the highlights of my career. Number one, I would recommend that you be hyper-focused. Don't be a recruiter that recruits every single position underneath the sun. Be focused on a specific industry, specific market, specific type of job, specific experience, as niche as you can, and just be a master at that, because that will give you credibility, that'll give you validity to just be able to leverage with clients and candidates to kickstart a successful business. The reason why you need to do that is there's so many reasons. But for example, to relate back to my story, I only focused in product and UX in my first kind of year doing this in tech in New York City. I got to know the market really well, got to know the industry skills and trends, was able to develop competence and being able to talk about these with authority with executives, founders, executive boards, and candidates. I was able to maximize each candidate I brought by presenting multiple jobs to them from the get-go, really increasing the chances and the probability of getting them into process, starting multiple processes, and then getting offers or multiple offers from one candidate. I was able to just also develop a reputation for just a great track record, great work within that market that, again, begins to compound and snowball over time. So again, consistency and hyper-focused is something that I would continue to yell from the mountaintops until the day I stopped this career. I only added software engineering later when I established a track record in my initial markets. To me, it made sense. It's one of the most competitive. Every tech company is looking for engineers. Once I really mastered product and tech, I was able to really just expand into engineering and to be able to provide really great kind of offerings and services to the clients I work with. And then if you've been watching me recently in some videos and you're seeing, wow, Preston, you're doing marketing positions in sales, finance, you don't seem that focused. Well, provided, yes, that's true now, but like 8 years ago, I was extremely focused. Also, just to kind of add to that, I am still relatively focused right now. I like to spend about 80-90% of my bandwidth, my mental bandwidth onto positions that are in our specialty. And if I ever do positions underneath the side, it's because I think I can confidently find great candidates and close them. Why? Because these are types of positions that I know really well myself. I have strong interest. I've been studying a lot. And this is really kind of referring to, for example, sales, biz dev, marketing. Love these types of positions. A lot of fun, and I love talking to talent in these respective markets. Number two, I reinvested into my business constantly and kept my spending low. I didn't take money out of my business to spend on frivolous or unnecessary things. I kept it in there. I took out a decent salary to live off of when I did well enough, and then I just kept everything in there with the purpose of, for example, stabilizing the business during tough times, which really helps right now when the market is absolutely insane and competition is through the roof. Recruiting is extremely rocky and unpredictable, and you never want to just assume that just because you did X, Y, and Z this month, you can do that next month. Just because you did X, Y, and Z this year, you can do it next year, right? I think when you do things like retainers or subscription or something like that, that brings you more of a constant revenue every month, that's easier to forecast on. If you're doing primarily direct placements, some months you can do amazing, other months you can do zero, and it's very difficult to kind of build a strong foundation. So in my mind, I'm like, it just made sense to leave as much money as I could to just be ready to deploy when I need it. When I say deployment or utilize, what do I invest it in? Like new tools and products to help optimize my business and workflow, invest into new talent, and being able to just move very quickly when needed. I only focused on a small handful of tools and didn't waste time or money on many different things. The biggest thing you need to test right now is like your business hypothesis. Do I know this market well? Can I get business? Can I get candidates? And then can I make money? Like nothing else should matter. And if you're spending most of your time on like, I need to research 30 different products here, 30 different products here, and you're not cold calling, you're not cold emailing, you're not reaching out to candidates, you're not actually making any placements, to me, like you're just not prioritizing your time correctly. You should be a little bit more efficient, focus on the main things that get your business off the ground. Once it's moving, then you can allocate some some time on the side, maybe during early mornings or evenings or weekends, on non-essential, non-critical activities on researching all the other tools out there as well. Right now, even for me, I use a core tech stack, right? But aside from that, like I still try to dibble dabble and test new things all the time. Our space is fantastic because there's always new technology coming in, always new improvements and innovations. So I really want to do my best to stay on top of that. But if you're starting brand new, the last thing you want to do is try to figure out what technologies am I going to use, sign up for like 50 of them, and then you just have analysis paralysis. When I started, it was super bare bones, like Google Gmail, Google Docs, Google Sheets to track my candidates and clients and processes, and it was free. And I focused on, can I just repeat the main activities, clients, candidates, deals, money, and can I just do that consistently? Can I do it faster? Can I optimize it? And then at what point do I need new tools to be able to optimize? If you think about new tools too early on, your monthly burn or spending just shoots through the roof, because even though one software might not be that expensive, if you have like 5, 6, 7, 10 of them, it adds up. And that just adds to the stress to an already unpredictable business. You just want to get some cash, make some cash, and get cash in. The next thing that I did is I always focused on the long term and never the short term. When I started this business, I started the business telling myself, I'm not going to do this for 3 months and 6 months and just see how it goes and maybe quit and change businesses if it doesn't work out. I told myself that whatever was going to happen, I'm going to be here 1, 2, 3, 5 years from now. And that's the same advice that I would give to anyone looking to start this business. If you're just coming in here and you're seeing all these crazy numbers and money, you're like, wow, I can have a certain lifestyle in 30 days, and then you don't hit that, you face your first wall of obstacles and challenges, and then you get demoralized and depressed, then you quit, you do something else. In my opinion, it's hard to find success. You really have to dig deep and commit, and you have to commit for the long term and back it with hard work and consistency. Relationships, in my mind, can turn into an amazing opportunity for the future. The reason why I mention relationships here is recruiting fundamentally is a relationship business. You're developing relationships with candidates, you're developing relationships with clients. The better that you can do that, the better that it can compound and bring many other opportunities that you're not really seeing or thinking about right now into the future. If a client or a candidate, for example, is difficult, I still have a tough time. I will always do whatever I can to just be positive, try to resolve it positively, or be professional, right? Because that client can refer you to other clients. That candidate can refer you to other candidates or clients. If you start burning bridges, not only can that hurt your reputation, but you're also hurting, for example, the planting of the seed of it turning into multiple seeds or other connections that you're just really underestimating right now. Referrals, if done right, is one of the strongest things that you as a business owner need to be able to think about. And the best way to kind of think about that right now and put into practice is just focus on your relationships now and do things with a longer term horizon. Re-engage with open roles with clients and candidates. Again, opportunities are endless with what candidates and clients can give you currently and into the future. Also, do your best to just be transparent. So like I'm doing my best on YouTube, for example, to be transparent with you. On my week in life videos, I try to show what we did well, what we didn't go well, and just try to be honest, right? I'm not trying to position myself saying I'm a master, I know it all. Like I know myself fundamentally, there's so many other ways that I can improve, especially when it comes to working with clients, working with candidates. I'm not perfect at all. I'm always want to be a student to see like what can I do better and just never settle and kind of reach a point where I'm like, I know it all, because I don't. And I know that there are people in recruiting that have been doing it 10, 20, multiple decades more than I have. And so for me, I'm just sharing with you what's worked for me. I'm always a student. I'm trying to find a way to better myself as a person, a human being, and a professional. And it's really, really, really important, I think, to be transparent. I think coming into a sales industry like recruiting or real estate, you can start seeing a lot of professionals or businesses take a lot of shortcuts, right? To either get more money quickly, to, sabotage a relationship, to get a client or something. And for me, I'm like, you know what? That's kind of, I've seen those practices and I don't really resonate with that. I'd rather take some money, a little bit less off the table, but if that meant at the end of the day, I can sleep better, I can develop stronger relationships with clients and candidates. I know in the future, long term, because my mindset's on the long term, not the short term, I'm building something for the long term that I know that it can pay out, right? Rather than taking shortcuts now. So common practices that agencies do is they're very nebulous. They're very vague on the salary. And when they submit candidates, if a candidate told you I'm looking for 70, they submit the candidates for 90 or 100 to the client, right? Hoping that they can kind of jack up the commission. If you're talking to candidates, for example, and they're like, hey, what's the salary band for this? And you're just kind of secretive about that. Like I just try my best to be honest. I picture our role to be the middleman to connect the company that's hiring to the candidate and try to make that process as best as possible. And the way that we can do that is just by being transparent to both sides as much as possible. Yes, there are situations where like, a candidate feels like you're taking the client side, a client takes the candidate side. It's all about communicating and over communicating and knowing that, hey, whatever you do now, it may or may not work out, but it could work out in the future. For example, if I find a situation where I'm like talking to my candidate, I'm like, this candidate, I don't think at the end of the day, like what you're looking for is what this company can offer you. I will just tell them honestly, and that might make the candidate not take that job and I don't get that offer, but I do know that there'll be multiple opportunities in the future. I can engage with that candidate again. Maybe they'll become a client, maybe they'll refer. That can only happen if the candidate felt like I shared with them advice that kept their best interest in line. And so that's what I try to do. And if you don't do that, that's fine. I'm not saying one way is right or another. And you might be like, oh, Preston, like, you're dumb because you're just taking easy money off the table. That's cool. But like, I've been doing this long enough where yes, money is important. Commissions are great, but I also just want to do what I can to be transparent in an industry that's known to be extremely secretive and very competitive. I don't take unnecessary shortcuts. I'm always do my best to give everyone a positive experience and leave with a good impression. All I want for my candidates is whether or not they apply for my client, whether or not they get that job. I want them to have a good impression. Same thing with clients and candidates. If they work with me or my team, whether or not they get the job, I'm hoping that, hey, they get a good impression. If they don't, I will learn from that and see how we can prevent that with future scenarios or situations moving forward. Plant the seeds now and don't underestimate ever the power of word of mouth and referrals. Biz dev. So regardless of the state of my business, I never stopped reaching out and developing new relationships with clients. Bringing in new business seriously is the lifeblood of agencies. More inbound of clients coming in means there's more opportunities to do consistent placements every month throughout the year. The worst thing, in my opinion, that you can do is just bank on one or two clients like, hey, I have 10, 20 roles, everything, life is gravy. All I can focus on is just, placing and closing these deals. That's fantastic. But what if something like, for example, the market condition that we're in happens right now? What if a global pandemic happens right now? What if a bank in California explodes, right? And then your client stops. Then what happens? You go from having a business that's relying on one client to no business at all. And to me, that terrifies me, and I want to do whatever I can to make sure I'm not in that position. So that's why, just me, the way I'm wired, I'm always gonna do biz dev regardless, whether it's strong or maybe it's a little bit kind of throttled back because the business is good. I don't ever wanna be in square one. I'm sure you don't wanna ever be in square one too. And so even like for me, if I do well in 1 month, I don't wanna be in a situation like what is going to happen next month, right? I don't have any business coming in. And to me also, in my perspective, that's not a business. You're just kind of lucky. And you're just really depending on one olive branch or lifeline, which is 1 or 2 clients that are just basically supporting you and your team's livelihood. To me, like that can be very, very dangerous. That's a very fragile business. If something happens, things can change very, very quickly. So next tip is always have business on, always cultivate new relationships because man, I'd rather you have too much business coming in than not enough. Find yourself in a really, really bad pickle. Always work with a sense of urgency. So recruiting is absolutely, and especially all types of recruiting is very competitive. You're competing on the agency side against internal teams, against other agencies, against other external third-party recruiters. A small way for you to get an edge is just speed. Schedule a call faster with clients or candidates. Don't wait 3 hours. Try to schedule them within an hour or two. Don't wait 2 to 3 days. Schedule them that day. Try to shorten or move candidates through the process as fast as you can with quicker feedback and responses. Don't schedule a candidate 5 days for the first interview. Try to schedule the first interview 3 days out or 2 days out. The faster you can do that, the faster you can then schedule the second round. So instead of having just one interview, for example, in that week, you can potentially have 2, maybe 3 rounds of interviews for that candidate in 1 week if everything is compressed. If an offer is coming out on Monday, can it come out on Thursday or Friday? Right? Try to find opportunities to just shorten that time gap. If you get an email from a client, maybe it's late in the afternoon or evening, respond as soon as you can. Don't wait till the next morning. Try to talk to them that day because chances are, for example, if they're a new client and they email back another recruiter, that recruiter might hustle faster than you, pick up that role faster than you, and then by the time you talk to the client, they're like, hey, nice to meet you, but I don't need your help anymore. Like that's your worst nightmare. So do whatever you can to just move quickly. Compound compound urgency with more work. If you're reaching out to 10 new companies per week, can you do 20? Can you do 30? If you're reaching out to 20 candidates per day, can you do 30? Can you do 40? And remain targeted and consistent. It doesn't matter if you found an amazing candidate, but if it took you a long time, you're already losing an edge to other recruiters, to internal teams. Ultimately, you can present the perfect candidate and your client's like, hey, we closed the role and do not want that to happen. Last but not least, having a prior sales and or working for yourself experience really helped me a lot. So I started my own startup before founding my recruiting agency, crashed and burned. I then worked in sales. Having a recruiting career or job is tough, but doing it on your own, it's extremely challenging, especially if you're independent or on the agency side, because in my opinion, it's an entrepreneurial sales job and a career. It's not just enough to know how to find candidates and how to find clients and think that you can switch working for yourself and succeed. This is why I think most corporate developers, internal who switch to external side fail. It's why a lot of external agencies who crush it at their job fail when they work on their own. A lot of it, I think, is two parts. One, it's very much sales, right? Outreach, personalization, following up, agreeing on engagement terms, negotiations, pitching jobs to candidates, pitching candidates to clients, managing relationships. All of that is sales. The more that sales that you've done before, you learn best practices, you learn what to do, what not to do, all that really helps. But the second thing that you really can't really practice until you start working on your own is the mental component of it, right? Dealing with rejection, constant failure over long term, dealing with like a headache of just even running a corporation or a company, taxes, legal, finance, HR, not knowing like how you'll do this week, this month, this year, and still having to show up as if everything's okay and you have to do your best over and over again and not have any sort of just safety net of a salary to help you. Having to pivot, improve your business, offer new products and services, adapt to changing market conditions. On top of everything else, that's why this is so tough. Having previous contracting experience or freelancing helps. If you were a founder of another company, that really helps. If you have prior sales experience, I'm not saying that if you didn't have sales or you didn't have a prior working for yourself experience, you can't do well. All I'm saying is they can really tremendously help ramp up or prepare you for the hardest thing you'll ever do. Aside from that, get a job in recruiting, get a taste for recruiting as well. Like for me, I didn't know what recruiting was until my first job, and I just found out somehow I'm okay at it, right? And this is why I'm doing it right now. So you might find out recruiting is not for you, that's totally cool. But if you are really serious on embarking on your own, taking that leap of faith, being able to start your own company and your recruitment agency, just trying to be as real and transparent with you, having prior sales can help, prior having business experience can certainly help. It definitely helped me a lot, helps me to this day. I'm still learning, I'm still trying to get better. It's really helped me to kickstart my business, help me find success relatively quickly. And again, it's just something that I think if you also had a similar experience like I did, it can help you too. Well, I hope you learned a thing or two and learned some value from this presentation. I had a lot of fun making it. I hope that it made some sense to you. Can't wait to see and hear of all the great successes and accomplishments you all do this year. Let's keep our heads down. Let's keep working our best, and I'll see you on the next one.